You broke my heart, I'm going to burn yours.
This would be the last thing that was allegedly said to the father of Nada Jane before her life would come to an abrupt end.
In the tragic aftermath, kindergarten teacher 25-year-old Amber Hughes would be arrested and charged with 2 counts of and 1 count of murder. This case is a prime example that appearances can be deceiving. The darkness that can lurk within the heart and minds of some human beings is not always easy to perceive. As with many of the videos that I cover that involve children, this video is not for the faint of heart, but it is a narrative that needs to be told.
In October of 2021, Challita met Amber Hughes when he enrolled his daughter into kindergarten. At the time, he had custody of 4-year-old little Nada Jane. Amber had appeared extremely friendly and she had offered to help him with his daughter, and before long, the pair had entered into a romantic relationship. Towards the end of 2021, when the father and daughter had moved to Bedford View, Amber had moved in with them. Shortly after, Amber had resigned from work at the kindergarten, stating that it was too far for her to travel. The relationship between the pair was on and off, with Amber allegedly becoming volatile and violent at times, threatening to harm herself too. Still, after each incident and after she spent time with her father, who would pick her up after these fights, she would apologize and things would go back to some version of normality. But beneath the surface, Amber's disturbing jealousy of the little girl continued to grow. It showcased itself in her bickering with the toddler over which ice cream flavors should be bought, or why Ellie was spending more money on his daughter than her. At the end of 2022, Ellie received a new job opportunity in Polokwane. Planning to relocate, he had appointments to view homes in January of the following year. And so on the 23rd of January 2023, he would kiss both his daughter and Amber as they lay sleeping in bed before heading off on the over 250-kilometer trip to Polokwane. At 8 a.m., the trouble allegedly began, with Amber angry that he had left without saying goodbye. Over the next hours, the pair would fight over WhatsApp messages and calls, with Amber accusing Ellie of cheating amongst other things. At 6:38 p.m. though, at the end of a spoken conversation, Amber allegedly said words that would forever be etched into Ellie's mind.
You broke my heart, I'm going to burn yours. How could you do that to me?
And then she had stopped responding to any further messages. And according to Challita's later testimony in court, Amber had threatened to harm his daughter just 6 months prior. With this knowledge in mind, panicked, he began racing back to Pretoria, calling a friend along the way to check on his daughter. His friend had even put the phone on speaker so that Ellie could calm his dog down, which would allow the man to enter the property. At that point in time, Amber's father had also arrived. But then communication went silent. Ellie's friend would tell him 50 minutes later that the baby was at the hospital. As it would turn out, inside the home, in the bathroom, in a bathtub full of water, face down, little Nada Jane would be discovered. Amber had been lying in the vicinity in a t-shirt with her wet skirt on the floor, with allegedly superficial wounds to her wrists. Although the little girl, who was unresponsive and cold, was rushed to hospital, nothing could be done to save her life. Amber would later be arrested at 11 p.m. She would later be charged with 2 counts of and 1 count of murder. Amber has pled not guilty to the charges, and according to Amber's plea statement, she claimed she filled the bath for Nada Jane to bath her dolls. She had then apparently tripped over the dog, fallen onto a glass, and cut her arm. Not wanting to scare Nada Jane, she had subsequently left to dress her wound, and upon returning, found the little girl face down in the bath.
Keep in mind the fact that 4-year-old Nada Jane was already bathing independently at this point in time. For some reason, beyond my understanding at least, she couldn't assist or get the little girl, who only weighed 15 kilograms by the way, out of the bath. And so she had apparently called emergency services and her father.
She would also further claim that there's no evidence of the assault of the little girl. The trial is currently ongoing, and on the point I just mentioned, a senior experienced forensic pathologist, Dr. Estelle van Staden, testified that the little girl had both fresh, estimated to have occurred no less than 12 hours before passing, and old injuries, consistent with sexual abuse. From the degree of damage sustained, it was apparent to Dr. van Staden that this was as a result of a small, narrow, thin object. The bruises on the little girl's forehead and temple were also consistent with hands pressing onto her skin. Additionally, her brain and other organs were swollen, full of fluid, indicative of a drowning. In a disturbing twist, Dr. van Staden would also testify that the forensic results showcased that little Nada Jane had been assaulted over a period of time. As I mentioned, the trial is currently ongoing. Amber was set to appear back in court today, however the trial has been postponed to the 24th of April due to her having an oral abscess.
It has been over 2 years since 4-year-old Nada Jane passed. 2 years without closure, and 2 years that her family, her mother and father, have had to deal with her loss. As I continue to follow this trial, all I can hope is that justice will be served for herself and for her family. You know the drill. Keep your eyes on my feet, and I'll be sure to keep you in the loop. Till the next one, Bella out.